Let's dive into one of the most painful, most confusing dynamics in relationships. We're going to talk about how a little bit of science, a little bit of understanding can change absolutely everything. We're about to unpack the surprising power of absence and what it tells us about how we connect as humans. I know, it sounds completely backward, doesn't it? How could silence possibly be the answer when all you want to do is connect? Well, we're going to break down the actual attachment science that explains why taking a real step back can be so incredibly powerful, especially with a partner who always seems to be one foot out the door. So first, we have to put a name to this thing, this frustrating cycle that so many of us get caught in. It feels like this dance that's impossible to stop, but just knowing the steps is the first move to changing the whole tune. If you've ever felt like you're in a constant tug of war, you pull, they push, you might be in what attachment science calls the anxious avoidant trap. It's this classic mismatch where one person's solution, getting closer, is the other person's biggest problem. Okay, so here's the fundamental conflict, right? For the anxious partner, getting close feels like safety, it feels like love. But for the avoidant partner, that exact same closeness feels like a threat, like they're losing themselves. So one person is saying, come closer, and the other is hearing, I'm being trapped. And they just keep triggering each other's deepest fears over and over again. It's exhausting. The brilliant therapist, Dr. Sue Johnson, she just nails it. She calls this the protest polka. Get this. Those constant texts, the calls, the questions, they aren't just nagging. They're a protest against the feeling of disconnection. But of course, that protest just makes the other partner step back even faster. All right, so let's try to get inside the avoidant mind for a second. Why do they pull away right at the moment you try to get closer? It's not because they're cold or because they don't care. It's because their internal alarm system is going off like crazy. Now, here's the twist you might not see coming. Research from the book Attached shows that even though they seem so independent, people with an avoidance style are just as scared of being left alone. The huge difference is they've learned since they were kids to just push those needs down, to suppress them and pretend they don't exist. And to keep those feelings buried, they have this whole unconscious toolbox of what researchers call deactivating strategies. Think of them as mental tricks they use without even realizing it, all designed to create distance and protect their independence. So what does this look like in the real world? Well, it's them suddenly zeroing in on your flaws, or they start talking about an old ex, this phantom ex who was so perfect, or you hear the classic, I'm just not ready to commit. It all serves the same purpose, whether they know it or not, to keep real, deep intimacy at a safe distance. Okay, so how in the world do you stop a dance that takes two people to perform? It's actually pretty simple. You have to be the one who stops dancing. You have to stop your moves in this protest polka. Dr. Sue Johnson says the pattern is the enemy, not your partner. The most powerful thing you can do is recognize your own protest behavior. The constant texting, trying to get a reaction, and just stop. The second you stop chasing, you stop setting off their alarms. You're no longer the one triggering their defenses. And just like that, the entire dynamic changes because you've refused to play your part in the loop. So what is actually happening in their head when you create that distance? This is where it gets really, really interesting. It's a little bit of science and, honestly, a little bit of magic. It's one of the most painful questions out there, right? Why does it feel like they only want you when you're gone? Well, attachment science has a clear, even if it's a little frustrating, answer. It's something called the phantom X phenomenon. The authors of Attached explain it perfectly. Once the pressure of real, day-to-day intimacy is gone, an avoidant person's defenses can finally come down. There's nothing to fight against anymore, so all those positive feelings they've been pushing away, they can finally come to the surface. When you step away, you stop being the problem. You're no longer the person activating all their defenses. Instead, you transform. You become the one they remember fondly, the one that got away. Your absence gives their attachment system the breathing room it needs to remember why they cared so much in the first place. Okay, but I have to be really, really clear about something. This is not about playing games. This is not about manipulation. This is about a genuine, powerful shift towards your own emotional health and your own security. Attachment theory has this beautiful kind of mind-bending idea called the dependency paradox. It says that real strength isn't about being an island who needs no one.
It's about having a secure base of support, which ironically is what frees you up to be more independent and confident.
By building a full, happy life that doesn't revolve around this one person, you stop needing them to fix your anxiety. You become your own secure base. You become a model of the healthy self-sufficiency they actually admire. And you go from being the chaser to being someone they have to choose to pursue. So what happens to them? What's going on in their mind when you've truly stepped back, stopped the chase, and started building this amazing, secure life for yourself? Well, without you to push against, they're suddenly left in a void. All the energy they were spending keeping you at arm's length now has nowhere to go. And in that quiet space, their own unmet, buried needs for connection finally get a chance to be heard. And you have to remember, their defenses are not made of steel. The book attached talks about studies showing that under stress, and believe me, your genuine absence is a major stressor, those defenses can crack. And suddenly, that deep down need for connection becomes impossible for them to ignore.
So in the end, this kind of silence isn't a tactic to win someone back. It's a mirror. You're holding up a mirror to the relationship, forcing them to confront the empty space you leave behind and to really see what they've lost. And what they decide to do with that reflection, well, that's a question only they can answer.